I think you called me a liar on national TV.
What?
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
Let's not do it right now. You want to have that discussion, we'll have that
Anytime.
discussion. You called me, you told me. All right, let's not do it now.
So I announced this morning that I am suspending my campaign for president. I say this with a deep sense of gratitude for every single person who got in this fight, every single person who tried on a new idea, every single person who just moved a little in their notion of what a president of the United States should look like. I will not be running for president in 2020, but I guarantee I will stay in the fight for the hardworking folks across this country who've gotten the short end of the stick over and over. That's been the fight of my life, and it will continue to be so. Gender in this race, you know, that is the trap question for every woman. If you say, yeah, there was sexism in this race, everyone says, whiner. And if you say, no, there was no sexism, about a bazillion women think, what planet do you live on? I promise you this, I will have a lot more to say on that subject later on.
Because as you point out, she was leading the polls last fall, and then when it came time to vote, she finished third in Iowa, fourth in New Hampshire, fourth in Nevada, fifth in South Carolina, and then, of course, third in her home state of Massachusetts. What's their sense of what happened between the fall and when the voting started?
I do think that we can't really understate the importance of that Medicare for All moment that she had. A lot of others in the field were pressing her to talk about how she would pay for Medicare for All, the impact on middle-class taxes. You guys talked about it. I know I did a lot of reporting on it. They came out with a very specific answer, but the problem with coming out with a very specific answer is that it opened her up to attacks from both sides. I do think the other thing that's striking and that a lot of ink will be spilled over in the next few days and the coming weeks is the role that gender played in this race. Elizabeth Warren talked about it yesterday when she was asked about how gender loomed over this race. She said she would have much more to say about it. It felt like a statement, but also a little bit like a threat.
That there have been some really untoward attacks by Senator Sanders' supporters, not by him himself, against you. Particularly online. His supporters have called you a snake. They used the snake emoji for you. They've called you a traitor. They tried to organize somebody to primary you, to force you out of your Senate seat here in Massachusetts. And the senator said last night, he responded, he said, I condemned that. And he's distancing himself from what his supporters have done. But I wanted to ask if that rose to your level of consciousness, if you were aware of that was going on, if you have any reaction to that or to his comments about it last night.
You know, it's not just about me. I think there's a real problem with this online bullying and sort of organized nastiness. And I'm not just talking about who said mean things. I'm talking about some really ugly stuff that went on because of this onslaught of online threats that they felt really under attack. And that wasn't the first time it happened. Working Families Party, 2 women there, women of color, who were attacked right after they endorsed me. And I think this fundamental question about what goes on online and where those lines are and how much each of us, and I want to say this for all of the candidates back when there were lots of us, we are responsible for the people who claim to be our supporters and do really threatening, ugly, dangerous things for other
And it's a particular problem with Sanders' supporters.
It is. I mean, and it just is. It's just a factual question, and it is, and that's something I think that.
Have you ever talked with Senator Sanders about that?
I have.
What was that conversation like?
It was short. But yeah, we've talked about it. But I think it's a real problem.
Does he not share your view that he's responsible for the behavior of his supporters?
You know, I shouldn't speak for him. It's something he should speak for himself on. But you know how we talk about money in politics and we talk about the super PACs and the outside money and so on. People have always just said there's nothing we can do about it. It's too bad. When Scott Brown and I ran in 2012, remember, we developed a contract between the two of us and said we're going to keep super PAC money out of this campaign.
Senator Elizabeth Warren has backtracked on a major campaign promise and something that just weeks ago she was disingenuously attacking Bernie Sanders about. She is now getting help from a super PAC, and it's not pretty in terms of her progressive credentials. So Senator Elizabeth Warren, who entered the presidential race loudly denouncing the influence of super PACs and big money in politics, will now be the beneficiary of what is believed to be the largest ad buy by a super PAC in the 2020 Democratic primary. And by the way, it's still on her website that she doesn't accept super PACs. This is a screenshot from facts.elizabethwarren.com. They have still not taken it down, even though she is now accepting money from a super PAC.
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
What?
I think you called me a liar on national TV.
Let's not do it right now. You want to have that discussion, we'll have that
Anytime.
discussion. You called me, you told me, all right, let's not do it now.